In this low-code feature focus, we're going to retrieve fields that have values. This is a quite common problem and was the subject of a recent question on our community forum. I'll let you read Brian's question, but the nugget is, most of the time, they are generating an email that's filled with pages of labels that have empty fields. In this demonstration, we'll show you one technique that you can use to retrieve only the fields that have values. First, let's see it in action. I've built an action form and have a number of fields, and all of these are not required. If I put in my name and click Send Now, the error message displays fields that were filled in. If I also provide a phone number, that value is displayed as well. Once the form is set up with this technique, we can add other fields to this, and it will work in the same way. If we were to add a text box called text1 and save it to the report, and to make it look nice, we'll rearrange it a little bit. In layout mode, we'll put our new field right up under the message and save it. And now we refresh. We have our new field, and we type in a couple of fields. And that field is now included in our output. Let's take a look at how this technique works. First of all, for setup, in the general settings, click in the advanced section and click Enable Reports. This feature saves the data from the form into a table in SQL. Next, when you define your fields, however you define them, for the ones that you want included in this mechanism, you'll need to choose Save to Report. That means the field is saved in the database when you click Save. All the rest of these fields are set up in the same way, where they're set up to collect and validate however you like, but you must save it to the report. Finally, I've added a field called UniqueID, and we're going to fill this in with a value later, but it's a hidden field with a custom value. Now let's look at the button and see how this works. We have a number of actions, and I'm going to go through them. You'll be able to follow along and replicate this in your environment. First, I'm going to inject data, and I'm going to set the UniqueID field to a compact GUID. So UniqueID gets the value of GUID new compact. This is going to assign a very unique ID to this field. Next, I'm going to save all of my fields to the database. So all the form data gets sent to the table AVT Action Form ReportFields. This is a predefined table within SQL that Action Form always uses. Next, I'm going to load all that data back from SQL. I'm going to retrieve all of the report field values that are not blank and not the unique ID. You'll need this query. It'll be exactly the same for you as it is for me, so you'll be able to copy and paste. Look for that in the comments to this low-code feature focus. We're going to create an entity called field, and we're going to pull out the two values, name and value. So the name is going to be the field name, the value is going to be the field value. Next, it's just all about how we want to use the information that we've retrieved. I'm going to start out by creating a result token that will have an empty value, and we're going to build up the result token in the next step. Under Execute Actions on Entity List, we're going to loop through the field entity. So the entity name is field. We're going to use the Update All tokens in the original context. This gives us access to that result token. For every entity that's present, we're going to inject data with the name and value. So the result field gets the value of the result field before this, plus the field name and an equal sign and the field value. I've also included the HTML break command so that each of these appear on a separate line. So for each iteration, for each field that's present, it's going to build up the result field. Finally, we simply display the result field as an error message. A more likely case is that you would use the result token in an email that you're sending. And that's it. Now, regardless of the number of fields that you fill in, we'll fill in all the fields and leave text 1 blank. When we click send, we get all the fields and text 1 is not represented. It will just automatically pull all the fields that are part of our form. If you want to modify this and use the fields for a different purpose, you would just go into the button and look at how you're building up the field. So for example, in this execute actions on entity list, you would change the inject data. So if you wanted to do something different with each of the fields, for example, you could run a SQL query or pass it to an API or whatever you need to do with it. In this loop, field name and field value would have the value of the fields from your form. In this low-code feature focus, we've retrieved fields that have values from a form and showed how to insert them into an error message or an email. Do you have something that you'd like to see in our next feature focus? Please write it in the comments below. For more great low-code content, please subscribe to Plantanet.